We see out in Libya, Putin's government is right now befriending Khalifa Haftar, who is the general out there of one of the factions. Russia is supplying funds and military expertise to Haftar's base in the east. And we can see right now that Russia has backed Assad. They're backing Haftar. And we see that the U.S. is telling Haftar to join in with the unity government. Now, of course, he's not going to do this. And we can see that we have the United States on one side trying to push the unity government, and we have Russia making deals with this general who is in line with Gaddafi, who is a Gaddafi supporter. And we see right now that Russia realizes that he is going to take control of Libya, just like Assad has control of Syria. And the United States government central bankers, their puppet government, well, it's going to be thrown out. Just like it's happening in Yemen, just like it's happening in Lebanon, just like it's going to happen in Iraq. It already happened in Syria where they couldn't even get a puppet government in there. They're losing control of the Middle East. And we knew this was coming a while back, which puts the petrodollar in a tough position because we know eventually when these countries are controlled and run by other individuals who are not puppets of the U.S. government, believe me, they're not going to be selling the oil using the dollar, especially if they're making deals with Russia and China. They're going to use gold. They're going to use maybe the yuan, maybe the ruble, everything but the dollar, which means the petrodollar once again is going to be doomed. The system is at its end game right now. Countries realize this. And right now, since the United States government central bankers couldn't take over Syria, then take over Iran, and keep control of the Middle East, things are rapidly falling apart very quickly.
Right, Shalom. First, I'd like to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and honors to you brothers out there in the highways and the byways teaching this word in all sincerity and in truth. And pretty much that clip there, the guy Dave from X22 report was going into some information regarding Libya, and you should know pretty much Gaddafi used to run things in Libya. Pretty much that country was alright, man. It was a good country to live in for the people, and until they fell victim to the greed of America and their NATO allies, and they cut a deal with Gaddafi at first, and they double crossed him and sent mercenaries into the country to depose him, and sent that country into a tailspin, and they're trying to set up a puppet government over there. And all of this happened under Medvedev, and pretty much Medvedev stood back. They protested what America and NATO was doing, but they didn't really do anything. Medvedev stood back and allowed America and NATO to decimate Libya and then begin to spoil it. And what's happened is Putin now, America tried to do the same thing in Syria, but Putin ain't playing that game. He stepped into Syria and made sure that that chess piece wasn't lost. And what you're going to start seeing is counter movements by Russia to regain Libya as an ally. And I always thought it was Gaddafi's sons, they're still present in Libya, although they're under arrest. But I always thought that, they would be a good rallying point to raise up the people against, the puppet government, and get that country back for Russia, because ultimately all the real Libyans know that when Gaddafi was there, their life was 1,000 times better than when NATO and America brought salvation. So obviously they're gonna feel a way about what happened to their country. So it's a good move for them to go in there and raise up one of Gaddafi's men or his sons to retake that country. But the reason I'm going into this information, I mean, even recently here, The date of the publication is today. It says Russia urges leadership role for Libya's Haftar. It says Moscow gives its strongest measures of support yet for Libya's government's rival general Khalifa Haftar, accusing the UN of stalling the divided country's political process. Because right now you got Russia's people on one side and NATO's people on the other. Okay? And who's gonna win in that battle for power in Libya remains to be seen, but there are clues in the scriptures. Okay? It says here, the deputy foreign minister also criticized the UN envoy to Libya for favoring the country's government of national accord over Haftar and his allies in Tobruk. Now the country government of national accord, that's a puppet government that's been set up by America, NATO. For his part, UN envoy Martin Kobler earlier this month said that Russia should support the Tripoli-based GNA because the consensus of the international community is important. Yeah, but Russia don't want to be with the puppet government which has been set up by America and their intelligence services. They're playing their own game. They want to set up a government which is going to be beneficial for them. And through the spirit, they more than likely going to be successful based upon the scriptures. It says, following military victory in Aleppo, Moscow is increasing its focus on Libya as part of a wider effort to restore its influence in the Middle East. Because like I said, Medvedev dropped the fucking ball, man. You know, sorry for my speech, but he dropped the ball, man. He stood there and let America take down Gaddafi. You know, he had that bitch Hillary Clinton talking about we came, we saw, he died, man. Medvedev stood there like a fanny, man, and let all that go down. Says this comes after Russia lost at least $4 billion in arms contracts and much more in energy and transportation deals in the North African nation when longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi was toppled in 2011 by an uprising backed by NATO powers. So, because I believe they had an AK-47 factory in Libya too. They were doing business with Libya. And Medvedev allowed NATO to just come and pluck Libya from underneath their arms. Haftar has been received twice in Moscow in the past 6 months, where he met with Russian ministers and the country's national security chief in a bid to shore up support. This cooperation between Haftar's eastern stronghold and Moscow means that Russia will supply his military forces military experts and will be printing money for a branch of the central bank in Libya's east. You know, so when we go into Ezekiel 38, we read about Libya. You know, so I always thought, you know, hey, they gonna get Libya back, and it seems like it's playing out, but we gotta watch and see how the prophecy unfolds. You know, but it looks to me that it's playing out, man. This is Ezekiel 38 and 1. It says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, and the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. That's talking about the Soviet Union, Russia, and prophesy against him. Yeah, because Russia is not going to win the World War III. They're just going to be the small, like what you would call the winner by default, because there really is going to be no winner to World War III. Yahweh Shai is going to win, because Russia is not going to get to enjoy victory over America. They're going down anyway, and they're going to get hit with missiles too. It's just America is going to be the biggest loser. And thus say, and a lot of Russians are going to die in this war, man. This is going to be, like, you know, we like to call it here the great, World War III is the great meat grinder of the Lord. Men are going to go in on one end, and raw meat is going to come out the other end, man. And say, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Yeah, because Russia ain't righteous any damn way. Okay, that's a fact. America ain't righteous. They're not the hero, and Russia's not the hero. They're both devils. But if Satan be divided against Satan, you already know. Ezekiel 38 and 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth. And that happened pretty much. There was a period after like the going into the 2000s, early 2000s, where Russia was making peace treaties and deals, and they were trying to be democratic with America and NATO. And mainly that happened under Medvedev's tenure as was it president? Is it president or prime minister? I think they got a president and a prime minister. But when he was president, and I think Putin was only the prime minister, if I'm mistaken, you could look it up. When Putin came back into power, that's when he went full on. He said to hell with this, man. We are not going to stand for this no longer, because they keep trying to make peace with NATO and keep it cordial, but NATO keep infringing on them and preparing to defeat them. So they're saying to hell with it. We're going to prepare to defeat you. And the last straw was Libya. Libya was the last straw. Then they wouldn't allow Syria to go. And I will bring thee forth in all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. So we understand that according to scripture, Libya will be with the Russians. All of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared and prepared, because a lot of them Eastern Bloc nations that used to be with the Soviet Union, even though they hate the Russians, they remember the iron fist of the Russians. And Trump has made some statements which hasn't filled them with confidence that they will be protected by NATO, which they're not going to be protected by NATO. They're going to be used as a buffer zone. They're going to be used as a no man's land. So many of them might say, you know what, instead of, they would rather face the brunt of NATO than face the brunt of Russia. So you got to look for these things too. It says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So now you see Russia playing the role of a guard unto that general. Okay, so hey, keep up with it. Like I said, this war, World War III, is going to be fought throughout the whole world. That's the definition of a world war. World war is a war which encompasses many nations and is multi-regional. Now we know the epicenter is going to be here in the Middle East, but this war is also going to be fought in Europe. It's also going to be fought in Asia. It's also going to be fought in Africa, South America, and finally North America. Because World War I and II, even though America was involved in World War II, okay, and I believe they came in at the end of World War I, but my memory, I'm kind of tired right now. But they never actually suffered an attack by any of the axis of evil or whatever on American soil. But this time, Russia is going to attack on American soil. This is going to be truly a world war, and the war is going to also be in the Pacific. It's going to be in the Atlantic. It's going to be in the Indian Ocean. It's going to be in the Chinese Sea, man. It's going to be in the Black Sea. It's going to be all over, man. The whole world is going to be in a state of warfare. And that's why America has set up command zones all over the earth. US PACCOM, US CENTCOM, US EUCOM, US NORTHCOM. And that just shows you they're an empire, because they've got their defenses set up all over the world. But guess what? Russia's gaining allies all over the world, and they're going to come against America. And America's going to be destroyed. And if you want to learn more about that, we got plenty of videos explaining about the destruction of Babylon the Great and America. Alright, so with that, I'm going to say Shalom.